So, welcome, Gordon. I'm here with nearly Dr. Gordon Montgomery, who is in Iowa, and we're going to talk about consciousness. And the topic of this podcast is tell me what you want, what you really, really want. Was that it?
Yes, not sure everyone gets the Spice Girls reference. In fact, my little nephew says about my doctorate. He says doctor brackets non-medical. So I'm like Uncle Gordon brackets, doctor non-medical.
A
That's his kind of
non-medical
title for
doctor.
yeah, non-medical doctor.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm actually a consciousness researcher. I'm doing a PhD looking at consciousness and that area.
super. I can't wait to dive
Perfect.
into all of that. But before we dive into all things consciousness, I can't wait to share that topic with listeners. I'd love to know what brought you to Iowa from Enniskillen, Northern Ireland.
Well, that's a super long journey. I mean, I was born in 1968, the year of great revolution around the world, particularly in France. But a lot of different steps. I maybe if I use my academic kind of milestones, that kind of helps a little. So, born in Northern Ireland, late 60s, and then eventually got a degree in linguistics with a little bit of computer science thrown in. Europe was supposedly opening up in 92 or so, and I was going to use languages, computers, and do that kind of work.
Right,
Ended up
Celtic Tiger, or oh no, no, you said Europe was opening up, so it wasn't the Celtic
yeah,
Tiger.
yeah, the idea was that you would have kind of technology skills. I mean, this is pre-internet. You would have technology
Right.
skills, and then you would also be able to speak all these languages. It ended up that kind of job was like basically sitting, listening to one language, typing it up on a computer. And so I actively did not learn how to type at high speed. So I unskilled myself so I wouldn't, take this kind of good job out of university, but ultimately would have kind of stayed there. So I just basically angled myself more towards technology, got a master's in software engineering right when the internet was kicking off. And ultimately, after a few jobs in Europe and different places consulting, came to America and started, really hitting and kind of riding that tech boom off the back of my master's in software engineering and, management and leadership and
Hmm.
worked with all the big name companies. In the latter part of that, up until about 2010, it was mainly sort of Microsoft, and my role was user experience design, so bringing the human psychology into the business and technology work of building websites and apps and
Right.
back-end systems. So it's always been a human sort of thing. And then I transitioned in 2010 into actually just working directly with the leaders on them evolving their leadership. And that's really the primary activity I've been up to, apart from academia,
So that was coaching
kind of
then.
since about
Did you
20.
transfer to coaching then if you were
Yeah, and
working with
I'm
leaders?
always, yeah, it's always interesting. People want me to be like an advisor or a teacher or a mentor or a consultant. One of the things I love about coaching is the client gets to say what they want, what they really, really want. And then we're like, well, let's do that, And like, well, what does that look like? And so then I have a kind of a framework and structure. I was trained by the, official organizations, ICF, IAC, and so forth
Hmm.
like that. And I had my own coach that had her own model. I did some group work, kind of with hundreds of people in the big room and that sort of stuff. But I really like this one-on-one coaching where somebody individually says, this is what I really want to do, but like, there's just no way. Like, how am I going to do this? I'm like,
Right.
well, it's not about doing. So I can say more about that.
Ah, yes. I love this topic. Right. Yeah. And then you transitioned to Iowa. Do you want to share then after that?
Oh
The
yeah, yeah, that's very recent. So yeah, basically, a few years ago, I started looking into what consciousness was. I found this guy called Maharshi Mahesh Yogi, or the Maharishi, the great seer, as he's sometimes known, was the guru to the Beatles. That's kind of the
right.
public
And he
knowledge
was
of
the
him.
founder of TM, right? Of Transcendental Meditation, is he?
Yeah. So
Mhm.
basically, from all the ancient 5, 10,000 year old knowledge that all world religions are somewhat based on, and as just knowledge, not a religion, but just knowledge of spirituality and consciousness. He created this one very simple meditative technique based on a mantra. Everyone gets their own mantra and just the simplest possible, kind of technique. I don't know if people listening have tried different things. And I certainly have tried most of the things out
Hmm.
there for personal development and spirituality. And I found like TM was just the simplest um, technique, that you just let the mind relax as the thoughts come up. You don't deal with them. You don't let them go. You don't just like, you focus, you defer basically to the mantra, and that the brain can't attach to it and therefore can't start doing all that monkey mind stuff. And so
Right.
anyway, yeah, so that TM technique, it was really kind of formalized at the Maharishi International University, miu.edu, here in Fairfield, Iowa, which is where I'm currently physically sitting. I was trained in TM by somebody who was directly trained by Maharishi. He passed to from this world in 2008, but a lot of his original um, kind of group of people that he was working directly with are still here. So I came here after doing kind of a master's here and a PhD, and I kind of left, went back to Texas for a while, which I've spent most of my time in Austin, Texas, in America. It's been my home base.
Hmm.
I came back again here to Iowa because we worked on a large group for world peace. And I think there are somewhere around about 20,000 people meditating simultaneously from the end of last year, 2023, into the start of this year, 2024. And so I came to Iowa. There's a major group in India, about 10,000 simultaneous meditators all day in India for 2 weeks.
At the moment.
Um, there were, yeah, and it's
Oh, there were.
continuing now as well. That's really kind of why I'm still here, because at the end there was 2,000 here in Iowa, and that like doubled the student population basically, or
Well,
it's a small school. So yeah, basically the request was, look, can we do this permanently? Meditation is not just like a personal inner thing; it actually affects a kind of a quantum field, or what you call it, that's made of consciousness, like self-awareness and awareness, and like that. So the idea is that as you transcend, then the environment around you harmonizes with your transcending of the noise and the thinking and so forth. So there's actually a kind of a field effect
right,
of
right.
group
So
meditation.
let's slow down there as we get into the consciousness. Thank you for sharing. That you've had an interesting path to where you are now. Let's imagine. How old is your nephew?
I think that's a really good question. Should know that. I think he's just
Approximately
turned 15. Yeah.
15. Oh, okay. Well, imagine he's 10. He's 10, and he says to you, "What is consciousness?" How would
No,
you?
right. Yeah. Yeah, this is pretty much how I speak about it all the time. Because you know, most people, when they think consciousness, they think, well, that's what I'm aware of. Like I'm conscious of that. We think of the
Hmm.
normal just, usage of it. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine that consciousness is awareness. The problem occurs when we look at the neuroscience, or we look at the structure, look what the scientists say about how we're aware of things. Number one, you pay attention to something, you kind of look at it and go, oh, I'm looking at this thing. And then we have mechanisms in the brain that perceive, that actually filter what we're looking at. And we know, just to take the visual aspect, there's many different inputs. But if you just look at how vision works, um, it's a completely constructed uh, process. So how you are conscious of things is actually constructed in the visual cortex at the back of the brain. So when you start thinking about, oh, consciousness is just what I'm aware of, it's not really true. It's, there's a sense of like, is that really what I'm looking at and perceiving? Is that real? And so when you only say consciousness is awareness, you're missing the kind of the inner part. So the self awareness, because there's something that's observing, like there's an observer observing something that's observed out in the external world. So when you talk about consciousness, I think it's important just to look at internal consciousness and external,
Hmm.
because how we operate in the world is, we go around going, that's hot, that's cold, that's my friend, I'm an American or an Irish. You basically just kind of construct this world. And
Yep.
so what's becoming more important is inside of your head, like what are you aware of in terms of yourself, because everything external is just a kind of is constructed by mechanical means in the brain.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's a 10-year-old level. It is.
I
10-year-olds are
don't
great.
think so, to be honest,
Okay,
but
fine.
maybe.
Well, it's a complicated thing. I mean, I don't know I
Yeah,
would ever
it
talk to
is.
most
Yeah.
people
And
about
that's
it, you know.
exactly that. And that's why I asked it, let's try to understand it from a 10-year-old. If you were to say it in one sentence, what would it be to a 10-year-old?
Nothing is real.
Consciousness is nothing is real.
No. No, I would say to it, I wouldn't even use the word consciousness. I think it's too complicated, too many syllables, even for people who are 20 years old.
Yeah.
I think it's just a difficult term to talk about. I think the easiest way is to say nothing is actually real. What you think is real is actually not real.
Right. Do you want to explain that in a little bit more depth?
Yeah. And it kind of goes a little bit back to what I was saying earlier, and I'll say it as simply as I can. So, um, our brains are in a box called our head, our skull, and our brains are taking in information about the outside world. And
Yeah.
then we have a sense that that outside world is real.
Yeah.
But that isn't what's actually, but the outside world is constantly being constructed inside of our head. So the outside is constructed inside of us.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't think I would even talk to a lot of people about this because that's
Yeah.
quite
Yeah.
shocking.
No, totally. I'm totally aware of this. It's the Matrix, right? If you watch the
Well,
Matrix
it is.
movie, it's
Yeah,
yeah.
and I should be better at popular culture. It probably would help me. I normally talk to, kind of other folks, but yeah, I think for the mainstream, just realizing that, I would say, in the most succinct way possible, it isn't kind of shocking to people's worldview. I would just sort of say your inner world uh, is much more important than everything in the
Right.
external world. And that's where, if you focus more inwards, however you do it, whether it's meditation or whatever, or just taking a breath or closing your eyes or whatever
Yeah.
you do that brings you inwards, that's actually what is real. And so that's what I would suggest, that it's sort of an inside job,
Yeah. 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 No, I understand this, and I guess I probably first learned that through the work of Byron Katie, when I
Right.
started
Yeah.
my certification. And
Good
yeah, she used
Texan.
to say that nothing is real, which was like, what? And then, and my issue with that still is like, well, if nothing is real, are we talking to each other right now? Are the people that are listening to the
Well,
podcast, are they making that up in their head? Or, it's interesting, isn't it?
yeah,
It's kind of hard to get the head around that.
yeah, it gets super deep very quickly, which is why I wanted to really find out how it works, and I've put
Yeah,
electrodes in people's heads and
you have.
EEGs, and yeah, all that sort of stuff, and
Yeah,
measured states of consciousness. We know sleeping, we know dreaming, we know
yeah.
wakefulness, we know the
Hmm.
transcendent. So we actually do
Right, the
have
brain waves
ways of,
you're talking about.
yeah, the brain waves, but also breath rate. And, the
Right,
best measurement is kind of heart rate variability and
right.
other skin conductance. So we now have, hundreds and hundreds of studies from neuroscientists, from folks a bit more spiritually oriented like myself, hundreds and hundreds of studies all coming together, and now quantum physics as well, saying
Yeah,
everything's a field of some nature that everything comes from. And
the
so
unified
all of this,
field.
like, yeah, exactly. Like it's
Yeah,
so, and we're sort of saying, well, from a meditative perspective, or however you go inside, whatever that is, or using ayahuasca, whatever people do, that's fine. But
yep.
everybody has a similar experience of some sort of field. There's some sort of place they
Yeah, and just to
go.
explain to listeners, if anyone doesn't know what ayahuasca is, it's hallucinogenic, and
Yeah.
how does it? It's is it what do you call it again? DMT,
Yes.
which
Yeah. So yeah, that's the active ingredient. So basically, it's a shamanic uh, root medicine that's created by typically kind of Peruvian or Amazonian Indian cultures,
yep,
and it alters the state of consciousness. and people have experiences, and
Right, right. Yeah, there's
it's a
I hear some
psychedelic basically.
psychedelics. Yeah, I hear some interesting stories, and other ones that, what's it called again? Bufo, I think it's called, where you
Yeah, the
kill your
frog thing.
ego, and it's
Yeah.
fascinating. I'm not drawn to it personally. I think that I believe that we can reach all these states through meditation. What do you think, Gordon? Do you think that?
Well, there's not even a thought. I mean, that's what the science tells us. I mean,
Yeah,
there are studies upon studies that we can access this sort of same type of field in many, many different ways. I mean,
right.
yeah. So I think one of the issues, there's two things that I would say about psychedelics, because a lot of my cohort in the doctoral program are looking at psychedelics. And
Yeah, it's such
the
an
two things
interesting
about,
topic.
yeah. But I think in terms of like knowing consciousness, it seems like you can access consciousness by you taking this kind of pill. There's two
Yep.
issues. One is it's becoming very, very popular to kind of shortcut everything and just get that physical experience. Nothing
Yeah.
wrong per se, but like that. And of course, it's, the pharmaceutical industries and others are starting to develop their own, LSD and other,
Right.
for kind of, it's been around a long time, but to actually use it, kind of, and use
Yeah.
it kind of medically and that so forth. That's one part. The other part is, you know, there's very little focus on the psychedelic process, like what's actually going on, as opposed to the product, the
Yep.
thing that you take.
Yep.
And so, like, it's like almost like saying, here's your marriage, like take a pill and you're married. Like, it's like, no, that's crazy. You have to.
No
And
work to
so,
do. Just take the pill.
right. Yeah,
Ta-da! Wouldn't that be
we
fun?
see this on, in a micro sense on social media, like they're my friend, or the Match.com, or whatever people, these, when you sort of connect humans to something greater
Yeah.
than themselves, or something, a little bit non-physical, that they have a connection in some way to something, be it the field or just another human, then there's sort of a process, there's mechanisms in there, and I think we've seen, if you use a social media example, we've seen what happens when you connect everybody to everybody, and then you're like, oh, Facebook's crazy or whatever. But it's really, Facebook doesn't have any, content. It's sharing other people's, and so I would use that as sort of a metaphor of,
Right.
if we can understand the psychedelic process, which is sort of like somewhat akin to a social process, then you can actually develop, I think, a really good kind of protocol with psychedelics. But as you were just saying, meditation allows you to access that field directly, personally, inside, anywhere, anytime, and without any sort of kind of side effects.
Yeah.
But I think these things can coexist. But yeah, it's just more work needs to be done on processes that are altering the state of consciousness. And I actually wanted to make one other point about something you said earlier, if it's appropriate,
Go for it.
or a good time. Yeah. So we're just talking about, well, reality. How is this real? And then really, it's all this sort of quantum field made of consciousness, and everything just all floating around in like some sort of energetic soup. And like, how can we be having this actual conversation?
Right. Yeah.
So so the idea is that knowledge is different in different states of consciousness, just as sleeping, dreaming, wakefulness, there's different knowledge. Like when you're asleep, it's a different state of consciousness that's measured. There's a transcendent fourth state of consciousness talked about in the ancient Vedic literature, but also measured in modern scientific laboratories. I think it was 1970 at this university, MIU, where they
Okay.
first recorded scientifically a different state of consciousness, an altered state. So just as those different states are different, there are other higher states that are different from sleeping, waking, dreaming, like that.
Yeah.
So in those different states, you have different knowledge. So if knowledge is based on your state of consciousness, that knowledge gives rise to how you think, what
How
actions
you
you
act
might
and how you
take,
feel.
and then how you behave, and then ultimately how you kind of construct the expansion of your own happiness, which is kind of sort of a purpose of life. So it's kind of like a
Right.
stack where they all coexist,
Yeah.
but we only access a few of them, and
Yeah.
that's the expansion of
Yeah.
meditative
Can I
practices and so
share
forth.
something that I thought was the most
Please, yeah.
powerful video on that topic, just to really simplify it? And I wish
Yeah.
that I could find that video again. If anyone finds it who's listening, please send it to me. It was a boy, he was about 10 years old, And he was a gifted boy. He said that he saw everything in shapes, geometrical shapes, and it was fascinating. And he was sitting on a curb and there was ants. And he said, "You see those ants? They are oblivious. They don't know that there's a bigger world out there and that we're here, and they just think it's just ant
Yeah.
world." And the way he described it, I thought, oh my God, that's it. And it reminds me when you talk about the different level of consciousness, it's like you can only access certain knowledge, and depending on your level of consciousness, when it raises, I guess, would you say, then you have a
Yeah.
deeper understanding.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say two things about ant world. One is, there's a certain, think of an ant going on a rope, a tightrope, and
Yep.
the ant can like walk along the rope, but the ant can also walk around the rope,
Yeah.
which is another dimension, so they
Mhm.
have and so but the second thing I would say, and this is more controversial of course, but every animal, it's one of the reasons I'm vegan, every animal has conscious awareness. They just don't really, like the same as us, we don't really interact and walk around in higher states of consciousness at all times. But I would liken, consciousness to maybe a radio signal.
Mm-hmm.
So many different radios, computers, devices can all tune in to that radio signal, and you can say, "Oh, it's in the creature, it's in the device, it's in the radio. That's where the consciousness is. That's where the music from the radio station is. It's in the thing." And then you're like, "I'll prove it to you." And you bash the radio, and it breaks. You're like, "See, no more music. The radio." But we know that that's not true. It's actually in the vibrations
Right.
somewhere. Like, where is it? And
Great
so
analogy.
that's
Yeah.
when you start thinking of it like a field. So it's totally true in one state of consciousness where ants are like just doing ant stuff and following chemical trails. And it's like us having emotions, right? We
Yeah.
follow these chemicals and our
Right.
brain. And
Yeah.
but then there's the mental level, there's the spiritual level, there's the actual physical, like I need to breathe and eat and all the.
Yep.
So that I think the key, information that's starting to come out is that the inner and outer world and all of these states of consciousness, more subtle ones, which are more powerful, and more, pragmatic, straightforward ones, all coexist at the same time. We just don't have access to all of them yet. And I think this is starting to happen now that more people are exploring not just their own personal development, but they're starting to go inwards and go, "Oh, if I access my own inner power and I'm fired up about life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then the kind of doing takes care of itself. If I know who I am, like an astronaut isn't like, what knitting pattern shall I do today? Like they're probably, right?
Yeah.
They might, but they're probably going to do astronaut stuff or
Right.
same, so it's like, and who you are, I think the being gives rise to the doing. And so that's a big shift, I think, for humanity to generally get, because we're mostly in the mindset of the world requires us to have things,
Yes.
right? Physical, actual things. There's
Yes.
a more subtle level of consciousness. Well, I need to do or plan or organize mentally, emotionally to have things.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to have something. Therefore, I do things. And then dot, dot, dot. Maybe then I'll get to be the person. And so this kind of having, doing, being cycle is kind of what humans have been trapped in, certainly since the Industrial Revolution 300 or 400 years ago, but for thousands of years, we've been
Yeah.
trapped in this.
Mm-hmm.
I need to have these things, and that's been exacerbated by technology and all the things. So my primary message is consciousness is all that there is,
Yep.
and who you're consciously aware of being will automatically, due to the laws of physics, will automatically give rise to what to do. And that when you do things, that will cause automatically you to have the results. So rather than have, do, be, it's really be, do, and kind of have, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you just keep working out,
Yep.
you're gonna have a fitter, healthier body. Now, it may not be exactly whatever way, but just keep doing certain things. From who, you're trying to be the world champion weightlifter, probably not. Like, who are you? Like, what? And then the being, and the being is really in the world of consciousness, and it's the inner world and who you see yourself as. And this is kind of like the fundamental idea that the more you go inwards actually creates more of the external. So as I was saying
Right.
earlier, like
Yeah.
most of us look at the external and then try to
Yeah.
internalize.
Would you use the terms 3D and 5D? The 3D
Yeah,
world
of course.
is the doing, and the 5D world, the quantum field is the being. Yeah. This is very much what you're explaining. I'm very deep into Dr. Joe Dispenza's work at the
Yeah,
moment.
exactly.
And it's exactly what you're saying. You know, it's for manifesting the reality that you want. Yeah, you can do it the hard slog way, the 3D way, or you can be and yeah, be like you're saying, yeah, to be. And you know, if nothing's real anyway, let's have fun with it and
Right.
just
And they
knock
all
yourselves out.
coexist. So yeah, they all coexist. And it may look like to other people we're working, like our calendars are like beeping at us and telling us the next thing. It may look like that on the surface, but that doesn't have to be how it is on the inside. So, you
Yeah,
know, activity in the world is not precluded by some spiritual life. It's not either or, it's
right.
all of the above.
Yeah.
You know, one final thing I'll say on consciousness, Dr. Tony Nader has written a book about this. He's now the current world leader on transcendental meditation as a
Okay.
movement. And he's written a book called Consciousness is All That There Is.
Haha, I might get that
And
book.
he actually, yeah, there's some sciencey stuff in there, but he does explain it like as a mass publication. But one of the things that is really nice, the way he talks about consciousness, he says, you are not the wave, you are the entire ocean, including the wave.
Beautiful.
Meaning that the
Mhm.
surface level of things that are so physical and how do I interact? Do I surf the wave? Do I what? Like what? You know, all of that surface stuff
Yeah.
is the same. It is the ocean, and you are all of it. And so the idea is just dive in, you know,
Yeah.
just be in the ocean because you are actually the ocean as well. There's no otherness. And but I just love that idea of you know, you think you're the wave
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
you're the entire ocean.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. For me, I like that analogy as well, and I use it regarding ego.
Yeah, yeah,
Do you
yeah.
explore that topic much in your work?
Yeah.
Being
I mean,
aware
in
of
the
the ego
coaching,
and
yeah, in the leadership coaching as well as in research, right? I mean, a lot of my transpersonal psychology research, you know, is based on Jung, you know, his divergence from Freud and so forth. I mean, the ego, you know, is excellent. We need to extend and include who we are, you know, plus the ego, like include the ego, but then extend
right.
beyond it.
The
So
ego is the
ego,
wave, and then the God is the
right.
ocean, I would say. Yeah. hmm
Yeah,
And we are
exactly. You
both
know,
the
yeah,
individual
I
and the
mean,
collective.
yes, exactly, exactly. There is no other, you know, it's all constructed literally. The science will tell us like we're constructing reality inside of our heads, and maybe we are the creative force, you know, causing the creation of our reality, which, you know,
hmm
the analogy I use there is those little flick books or the early movies, right, where it's a lot of still images.
Yeah.
But if you run them past faster than our perceptive mechanisms, it looks fluid. Like even this video is being cut at a certain hertz rate. There's
Yes.
a, you know, and it's
Yes.
all tight, right? So
Yes.
I think to kind of bring that all together with ego, ego is just trying to protect us, you know, from the wave, from the cuts, from the
Protective.
shifts.
It causes
It's
a lot of harm too, in my humble opinion. It causes a lot of pain
right.
when we're very
Well,
connected with our ego. It causes separation, right?
right. But that think about all protection, right? Why do armies go to war? They're protecting their ones at home, right?
Yeah.
But for the ones that they're going to war again, right? So that's an extrapolation, you know, on a grander scale. So we actually do need the ego. The problem is that the title is, you know, the name is the death of the thing, right? So as we name the ego, we
Yeah.
lose that we do need to survive. We need to
Yeah.
breathe and eat and do. So we do need that kind of survival aspect to us. It just shouldn't be running our entire life, which is where
Right.
the issue
Exactly. I think
occurs.
it's, yeah,
You
having
know?
awareness around it and
Yeah.
non-attachment. Yeah. hmm
Yeah. I mean, the
Yeah.
Buddhists, you know, took this knowledge and yeah, I mean, the Buddha said all life is suffering, you know, like, you know, that, you know, there's a suffering to be alive, right? You have to suffer. Like, I need my next breath, you know, it's a suffering in, you know,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
a
yeah. That's
weird
an
sense.
interesting one. I mean, I think I do believe obviously there is suffering, and I think it's a polarity. I think that there's also joy, right? And you know, there's both. I wouldn't say that
Right. Well,
it's
so there can be a joy. I mean, I'm a 100-mile trail runner as well, the sporting side of things.
right. You know how
Have,
to cook up some endorphins then.
yeah, yeah. Well, one of our expressions, I mean, there's Ultra Tour de Mont Blanc, UTMB, like running
Yeah,
around
I
Mont
know it.
Blanc and
Oh, you
stuff.
did
And it's
that.
one of
Yeah.
the, I no, no, I'm not at that level
All
yet,
right.
but
Mm-hmm.
it's one of the most famous in the
Mm-hmm.
world. I'm actually wearing a shirt from Leadville, Colorado, which is another 100-miler that was famous in America. But the point about all of that is in the ultra world, we just say suffer better.
I like that. Suffer better. I really like that. Yeah. Well, what I say is choose your hard, because either way
Exactly.
it's going to be hard, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I love the discipline of, going to the gym and healthy habits.
Yes.
And yeah, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
and now I'm doing 75 hard. Literally, I'm on day 6 of 75 hard. 75 hard, the challenge? It's
I've
75
heard of
day
it. I
challenge.
haven't.
Yeah. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's no sugar, no alcohol, a gallon of water a day, a progress photo every day, 10 pages of a paperback book. It can't be
Yes.
audio. And oh, there's something else I can't remember. Shoot, the 6 things. What did I say? Progress photo.
Did you mention meditation?
No, there's no meditate. I meditate every day, but that's not in 75 hard. Oh, the other one is 2 by 45-minute workouts every day. One has to be outdoors. So that's I bike
Very
to
good.
and from the gym. So that's 45 minutes, and I'm 45 minutes in the gym. Plus I do yoga in the mornings, but that's so yeah. So that part is easy to me, the physical
Yeah.
exercise. But
Yeah.
yeah, I
You
mean, a lot
probably
of people would say that, oh, that's really hard. And actually, this is my third
right.
attempt to do 75 hard. And I had
Right.
a belief before that, oh, no, I can't do without sugar, which that wasn't true.
Right.
I mean, my mindset has shifted, and now it's 75 easy, I would say. But it's like I
Yeah.
choose my hard, inverted commas. That's not even a hard for me anymore.
Right. And this
Yeah.
is, the purpose of life is the expansion of happiness. That was a quote from Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. He wrote a book called the Science of Being and the Art of Living.
Oh, I like
The
that. Yeah.
Science of Being and the Art of Living. He wrote it in 1965. But that very simply, non-scientific. He was trained as a physicist, actually, so that's how he was able to deconstruct the Vedic literature in a very structured manner. But yeah, the purpose of life is the expansion of happiness, and like we can find happiness in anything, and that's the kind of the dissonance I think that people feel is like, well, I need to be disciplined, need to pay the rent, need to get stuff done. Yes, you do. That's in 3D reality. That's how it works. Like, don't suddenly start speaking Russian, to all your friends. Like, what are you doing? We've got,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
also when you're
Yeah, we have
asleep,
to
like,
navigate human life as well, right? Yeah. Yeah.
right. And that's, and so I was going to mention there's another podcast, a Navy SEAL guy. And,
What's his
he
name?
basically,
I know a few of them.
um, Wilnick, so
Well, Nick, no.
yeah, discipline that equals freedom.
Yeah,
I think, I forget his first name, but
I've typed that. I've used that
yeah,
a lot. I still use that. Discipline's freedom. Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
100%.
So a lot of
That's been
the,
my learning. Yeah, yeah. And it's really interesting because that we would think is that's 3D, right? But then I
but
don't know, even my
it is,
meditation is a discipline. And I
right.
love my meditation in the morning. I just trip out on it. It's the
Yeah.
deeper
I
that I
just think,
go. Yeah, yeah.
I think a lot of people are trapped in these terminologies, right? And we just take these words as like
Hmm.
complicated or easy, or and either end of the spectrum, kind of messes us up. Discipline, people forget is the same origin as disciple.
Hmm.
Discipline doesn't mean whipping yourself, like discipline isn't the army shouting at. In fact, when you're around special forces type people, you don't want the shouting, bullying, because that isn't going to make you do
Right.
something super hard. Like
Yeah.
you've got to have, like when I'm running 100 miles and it's 2 a.m. and I'm sitting on a
Yeah,
trail
it's
and I've maybe
intrinsic
been
motivation you
ill.
need.
Yeah, you got to like stand up, take a
Mm.
step, move forward, but that's 5 miles. Well, take another step. You're like,
Yeah.
what, and so you could call that discipline or forcing yourself, but at a certain point, there's a joy in it. You're like, look, why did I pay to fly to this godforsaken part of the world to be on a trail with cactuses and who knows what, right?
Right.
Well, because that's who I am. I'm someone who
Yeah.
challenges myself. And if you
Hmm.
don't challenge yourself,
Yeah, I agree.
you
Yeah.
can kind of drift into this kind of just, at the behest of the external world, and it probably doesn't care as much about your dreams and your hopes and what you really want as you really do. And I think that's the whole motivation for coaching. Get somebody who believes in you just a little bit more than maybe you believe in yourself every day.
Yep.
And then every time you're like, oh, I don't think I'll do 75 hard, you're like, you're doing it. Like that's what we agreed to. Like, and then eventually you build that muscle, right? So I think discipline
Totally.
very much
Yeah,
is
it is
freedom,
a
and it's a
muscle. I
good thing.
agree. I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Discipline is a muscle. Yeah. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want, Gordon.
Well, okay. I have many answers that come to
Well,
mind
I'm
on that. What do
curious
I?
because that was the title you decided. So I'm curious about why you chose that
So
title and yeah, and what your personal wants
yeah,
are.
yeah, and I think maybe you could extract, the meta answer from everything I've said today, because what I'm really interested in is meaning, like both linguistically, computer science, socially, philosophically, psychologically, in people's lives, what do their lives mean? Is your life meaningful? Like, meaningless? Is everything just meaningless?
Right.
Throwing your
Yeah.
hand. So what I really want is that everybody sees their life as meaningful.
Beautiful. I
That
love
there's
that.
actually a
Yeah.
meaning for their existence. They're
A
on a
purpose.
soul mission that
Mm.
maybe they chose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, purpose.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
chose it. They're choosing their people. They're choosing their next word.
Mm.
Like there's a deeper well, a feel of energy you can tap into through meditation, through just camaraderie, laughing. There's a way to access something beyond yourself, and that's where the meaning is. It's the freedom to actually narrowly choose, like this is your soul mission, this is what you're
Yeah.
up to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'll say one last thing on that, which is what my coach Carolina Aramburo, originally from Bolivia,
Mm-hmm.
which we were in a master coach training, once
Yep.
we were coaches and everything. And we were like, Carolina, like, what's your rules? Like, tell us all the stuff. Like, we're in the master's training. Like, what's
Yeah.
she's like, I only have two rules. And we're like, this is like an hour conversation about these two rules, but I'll just make it succinct. So basically, what's rule one? She's like, well, do whatever the hell you want. Like that was her number one rule. And we talked
Right.
about, what do you mean by that? Are you just gonna like, be selfish? And we talked about, no, like do what you really want. And
Yep.
whatever you like, why don't you live your life?
Yep.
And we sort of had forgotten rule two. And then someone's like, oh, what's rule two? And she said, rule two is if in doubt, be rule one. So do what you're really here to do. And if you
Mm-hmm.
start doubting yourself, do what you're really here to do.
Yeah.
And I just
Yep.
thought, with many of these things that are kind of pithy and very,
Mm.
succinct, there's a lot of truth in that, because I think we believe externally that we have to have things, therefore we have to do things, and we never really get to be who we really are.
Yeah, and I think it's also
And
societal conditioning, expectations from parents, and just wanting to
external
fit
stuff.
in, just fear of going against what's expected. That can be really hard, and that's
Yeah.
in coaching what we help clients
Mm.
to do. Yeah, but what I want to ask is because I came from the gym, as you know, and I was chatting with a friend there, and she said, Neve, I still I'm not sure. I don't know what I really want. And she's been saying that to me for years. And I was like, oh, I know what you want to. Anyway, I won't go into that part. But I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that there is more than her that might be listening to it and to us, and will say, well, that's easy for you guys, because I'm very clear now. I wasn't always. It took me a long time, but I'm very, very clear about why I'm here and what I want and who I am. But a lot of people are not. So what advice would you give them?
No, that's easy. Get a coach.
I like that answer. Yeah, it's very good.
No, I mean, I'm,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
for real,
Yep.
anybody who's ever done anything has
Hmm.
had a coach. They may not have called them a coach, like, teacher, blah, blah, blah,
No.
whatever. It's not your friends, not
Hmm.
your family, not somebody. It's somebody who's gonna
I
like
agree with you.
kick your
Not a friend or
rear a little bit.
family. Yeah. Well,
No,
depend, maybe it could be a friend, but it's more, yeah, somebody, a professional who is trained to help you
right. Yeah,
to dive deep into who you truly are, what you're here to do, and who you're here to
right,
be, and what fires you up, man. That's it. That's why I have
right.
the
And it's
Fired Up
simple stuff.
Coaching podcast.
Like, and we're both Irish, right? And so I don't know
Yeah.
if you had this experience, but like so many times people like really connect with me or even want to work with me or even multi-million dollar deals when I was consulting,
Mhm.
because I was Irish. Like
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
like the other guys that we're competing against or whatever, they were like, yeah, that's okay. But they just kind of got on because they felt there was some connection, with me being Irish. Now I'm Northern Irish and there's a whole bunch of stuff in there, but
Yeah.
they were like, okay, you're Irish. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not that likability solves everything, but this is how we can interconnect, I think, with other humans. What if we could do that with ourselves? And
Mm.
so one of the things I get clients to do, like right after a discovery call, is like write out a kind of an ideal day or an ideal week or month, but condense it into
Yeah.
some sort of view, a collage, who knows, but create
Mhm.
something for yourself that, and then they give it back to me like, I want a house and a car and a wife and a husband. And I was like, okay, that you can do that by yourself. That's just stuff. Like, what do you really, we sort of go back and forth a little bit, but we get
Mm.
something that's on the edge of like insane. Like, there's just no way. There's just no way. Like, how would I ever? I'm like,
Yeah. Shoot for the moon.
you
If you
might be
don't reach it, you'll
surprised.
land amongst the stars. Yeah.
Perfect. Exactly. So that's sort of the thing, like,
Yeah, and that's what I
helping
actually,
people.
yeah. I sorry, just
I
I
imagine, yeah.
think to because no, you make a great point, but it's really important to, it has to be on the edge because it has to be something that excites us, that fires us up, because otherwise you're not going to really go after it. You've got to be like, oh my God, that would be amazing,
Yes.
to really
You
go
got to be
for it.
switched. That's the
You got to
edge. This
stretch,
is
yeah.
really interesting. And that's where consciousness comes in because how am I aware of the external and how's that driven by the internal? But like the edge, I don't know if you ever jumped out of an airplane, but I have one
No,
time.
not yet.
Right? When you're in the airplane, it's all fun and games. Everyone's joking, we're all gonna die. And everyone's just, whatever, just joking around nervously,
Yeah.
right? And then there's like the edge, right? Where it really is happening. That's what you remember, like going out. And then you're
Yes.
dropping at 100 miles an hour and it's a whole other experience. So deep inside or deep outside of an experience, it doesn't really land with you, but it's the edge. That's
Mm.
where Shiitake happens, right?
Yeah, life
That's
begins at
where
the end of your
stuff
comfort
really.
zone is one of my favorite
Well,
quotes.
exactly. So get there. Get there with
Yeah,
somebody who'll be. I mean, I
beautiful.
had a guy strapped on my back that was helping me to jump for the first time, right, out of the airplane. So, get somebody who knows what they're doing,
Yeah.
but make no mistake, you're the one jumping. Like you definitely jump,
Hmm.
but there is
Yeah,
always
yeah.
that little quantum leap of jump.
Totally, yeah. And why would we not? This is, what I feel very passionate about as well. Is like, we're here to live, not to live in
Be
fear,
happy.
but to live as fully as possible. So yeah, we got to challenge our edge and go for it. And
Yeah,
yeah, that's yeah. And then I guess, and that somehow, I don't know, that's not, how does that tie in with consciousness? Because that's
because it's all that there is. So,
right. Oh, yeah, I forgot. For me,
yeah.
it's
Well, I mean, I
go
think.
ahead. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So, when you get beyond the external view of consciousness, that is just being aware of the outside world, and then you start to think of consciousness as what you might call self-consciousness, but not in an embarrassed way. I'm self-conscious, but like being aware of yourself and what's going inside of you, and helps to close the eyes and calm the breathing and all these other techniques for whatever it is. But like how that connects to consciousness is, I mean, the Navy SEALs do this, the business people do it, high level sports people, they
Yep.
all go inwards and they visualize or whatever they do, but it's an inward step.
Yep.
It's all inside
Yes.
of you. So
Absolutely.
anything you're about to do, I mean, just even think about it. When our precious moments happen in life, we kind of close our eyes, you know, praying or, I mean, anything,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
I think when I think something's amazing and it's just happened, and, oh my God, it's so good. There's probably some eye closing happening where we're trying to close off the external stimuli, which are fine. Sometimes we need to walk around the
Hmm.
world, but it's the inner work, and that's not common. It's not easy. There's not many people doing it. It's probably single digit percentage on the planet. Like
Hmm.
it's a difficult path. So get a guide, like that,
Yeah, totally.
that's sort of,
It's about
you know,
overcoming yourself, overcoming your current circumstances and believing greater than and feeling greater than your current circumstances, which is a practice, and the ego resists it. It likes the familiar.
yes.
But it's
Right.
beautiful,
Because
yeah.
that's so, yeah. And this is going to be so important now. I have a kind of a futuristic bent to me. So I'm very into futurism and what's coming, and that certainly
Yeah,
gets
yeah,
into
yeah.
technology and so forth. But if we look at civilization, I think humanity is going to be fine. Like there's always going to be humans doing
Good.
stuff. But if you look at civilization, which the origin of that word cives, whatever, is a city, like humans operating together in some sort of organized structure, that's probably going to change in the next 10, 15 years, like we're markedly,
Yeah,
because the rate of change is coming very, very rapidly. So if we don't have an inner game, the external world's not really going to care. Like if you drive any sort of vehicle, if you work in any sort of retail, like end of a retail chain, in a business,
yeah.
anything that's automatable, you have 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% of your work very rapidly in 5 or 10 years will just not exist. It's not like you can retrain. Now there will be other things created. It's not all doom and gloom,
Yeah,
but it's just going to be fast, and it's going to require us not to have this kind of mental health stress problem. Already a lot of us feel like the world's going too fast. So imagine, 10xing, multiplying that by 10 times as fast and as big a change. So I think there's bigger civilization shifts that would behoove people to do something for
totally.
themselves
Absolutely.
internally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it has to be our number one, I believe. And also, we just don't know when we're going to transition to the non-physical realm. And it's like, well, let's just, keep that connection. That's part of, for me as well. It's like, it's really important. It's like, that's where I'm going
Yeah.
next. So, or actually, it's not where I'm going next. It's where I am now.
Right.
But,
But yes,
you
that's not
know,
where you're sourcing maybe from. Yeah. And one thing I would want to say on consciousness, like when I work with people, yeah, certainly, we can talk about, existence, first, second, third, dimensions. And there's like usually people are in 3D reality when I talk to them, right? And there's some sort of leader, they're trying to create something.
yeah.
Then there's a transition to the fourth dimension. So they kind of move to a more, space and time
Hmm.
orientation where they're in charge of their space and time and discipline. And that can be very addictive. It's like, no, I have the whole world, I can do everything. And that's a lot of people, I mean, a lot of our leaders and a lot of our tech people or whatever that are kind of running things are in that mode. They're just in a
Yes.
fourth dimensional mode. This dimension, a more kind of heaven on earth kind of mode, right? We are not as concerned, like 3D is further away, and
Yeah.
still you have a 3D life. But I believe there are about 12 dimensions, as
Hmm.
categories, as sort of levels you could maybe, and so when I first work with people, I assist them in moving from 3 to 4 to 5. And they're like, oh, I'm upgraded. Now I've got the master's, I've got the PhD in myself,
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what happens, that's sort of like, I only do two types of coaching, is people just want to move up, through the levels. And then the second type is, and I would kind of put you in this and myself kind of in this category, where we can hold all of the dimensions that we have accessed. We can hold 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or maybe even 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We can hold
Hmm.
all of them simultaneously. So we're
Hmm.
okay in 3D reality. We're okay transcending. We're okay that it's heaven on earth. We're okay in the totally non-physical, beyond heaven kind of mode where everything's perfect. We're designing everything by the second, like that. So that's kind of the kind of the masterful level where you can really walk around in a transcended state where you realize everything's not real, but you also operate in the physical world. And that takes some doing, and but
Yeah.
it requires people to, not just think that I'm more enlightened, therefore everything's all fine. It's like,
Right. Yeah. Spiritual ego is a thing. Huh? It's
yeah, or spiritual bypassing, right? Because now you're
right.
transcended. Oh,
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
do the
Yeah.
inner
Yeah. Yeah.
work. Okay, great. But you've also got
Yeah.
to keep the other
Yeah,
stuff, right? So it's
absolutely. Yeah. And then
don't
life
show the
happens and we get humble again. It's happened to me. Believe me, I was like, oh, I'm
right,
so evolved. And suddenly
right.
not.
Well, that's what makes a great
Yeah.
coach, right? Because we've actually, people ask me, like, how have I done all these things? I just like got it wrong more than I've got it right.
Yeah,
And
totally. We
I
have
just
to stay
learn
humble and
quickly.
we're all still learning, aren't we? It's beautiful though. Fabulous conversation. You know what, Gordon, we're going to have to do a part two because I've really enjoyed
Oh,
this and I've got lots more
many parts.
questions actually. I wanted
Me
to
too.
ask about your PhD and about synchronicities. So I think we're just going to have to do part two if you would be willing to come back on my podcast. Super,
Yes.
because this is really enjoyable. Let people digest this, and then we're going to go a layer deeper. So guys know that Gordon will be coming back. And if you've got any questions related to this topic, then please send them to me, and we'll make sure that they're addressed on part two. Sound good?
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much for
much.
your
My
time,
honor.
Gordon. This was
Yeah.
really, really fun and interesting. So see you
Yes.
for
Thank
part
you.
2 soon. Bye,
Bye
everyone.
for
Thanks for
now.
tuning in.